pretty fun. So obviously, Trajan Langdon's brand new here. What would you like to see from him, or what are you hoping that he does accomplish at the trading deadline?
I want to see him capitalize on that cap space, that 14 million. Uh, and like, so whether that's bringing in a Zach LaVine, which, doesn't seem the most likely anymore, but using that cap space to bring in a real asset, whether it's a player or a multitude of picks, really utilizing that and capitalizing on the situation they are in with being the only team with cap space. Because I think, lots of people will critique Troy Weaver for a lot of things, but I think the one thing that stood out to me with Troy was just never capitalizing on your assets, the asset management. And I think Trajan set this team up to be in a good position at the deadline to really make some noise, but actually, set this team up for just to get more picks and because I truly kind of in my gut feel like the bigger trade isn't coming until the off season.
Mhm.
So, but at least put yourself in an even better position come then to be first in line. Like it's going to be hard to get ahead of OKC or those teams, but to actually be able to put together a package to get a true star. Now, look, if he gets Ingram or Levine, like that's good as well. But just really capitalize on the assets and I guess the cap space you kind of have at your disposal.
Yeah, I don't expect him to make a splash like an Ingram or a Levine. I think if he does make a move, it's probably going to be a player that's maybe on a bigger salary, to kind of absorb that and maybe send a little bit of salary, going out. Possibly this kind of stocking the cupboard with potential draft picks. Obviously, when you look at the Pistons and their first round draft picks, they're tied up because of the Isaiah Stewart trade, and they can't really trade draft picks until draft night, which is a bummer. But I kind of think Troy Weaver did the Pistons some favors because that you possibly could have made some really bad trades if there were no protections on that pick during his era. You never really know. Maybe we would have got DeAndre Ayton or something like that, something crazy instead of Jalen Duren that year. But I think Trajan's really calculated, and I had tweeted it out because when we were like doing like the Paul Reed stuff, and like there was a report from Mark Stein saying like Trajan doesn't have a plan, which I kind of like disagreed with. Like I think he has a plan. It just wasn't going to be during like the Javante McCoy and re-signing Paul Reed for a minimum. I think that the plan probably would be closer to that February deadline where maybe a player does become available because we're recording this in December. Like I think over the next month or so, like these trade rumors are going to start to heat up. The teams start talking to each other on a more regular basis. You really never know who's going to become available. I know like off camera, people have told me just some like crazy like trade offers that the Pistons have gotten for like guys like Cade Cunningham, like guys like Jalen Duren. But I think at the end of the day, Trajan seems like he has a plan, and he'll probably put the team's best interest first. He's not gonna fall in love with the guy that he scouted, like Troy did with James Wiseman. Like I still never understood the James Wiseman trade to this day. I don't understand the fascination with centers. I just don't. But I know you had made a joke like, isn't it kind of funny that we signed all those centers and like we don't have one that can protect the rim on a consistent basis outside of Stu? But I'm hopeful. I have blind faith in Trajan. I just don't know why.
No, I think what the moves he's made so far, like, after last season, like, I'm, it's going to take a lot for me. Like, I need to see the results first before I get excited about a coach or a GM, because we all were extremely excited, or I know I was for Monty Williams. Like, I was like, wow. But and how that went was taught me some lessons. But I think the moves we've seen Trajan make so far and the roster he's put together, particularly in like a ridiculously condensed time frame, like I think they've all been solid to good. Like I think the one people will look at is a Tim Hardaway Jr. one. I haven't checked in how Quentin Grimes is playing, but I think Grimes, there was some talk he didn't really want to be in Detroit, and you're also going to have to extend him as well at the end of this season. So now you actually got those 3 second-round picks. THJ's been solid, helped win you at least a couple of games. So I think there's definitely reason to have faith in him. So I think he is calculated. I think there is a real plan. Like, I was a bit worried when I saw that Mark Stein report, and I was like, "Oh, this seems like a bit chaotic." But then, as we saw, turned out it was a really good piece of business from the Pistons. So, I think there's reasons to have faith in Trajan and his plan.
Yeah, I mean, like Michael Blackstone. I don't know if he's the cap space guy there. I think someone had said he was. I don't know that to be a fact, but to get Paul Reed's non-guaranteed deal, that I think was like around 7 million, down to basically like a minimum, I think is just like salary cap gymnastics, and like he added more cap space. I think you had mentioned like 15 million of like which they could, take on bigger deals throughout the trade deadline season, which I think they have a plan. I think they are just open for business for teams that maybe want to get rid of those bigger contracts, but it's going to be really, really chaotic. I feel like I'm not going to be able to leave my house until February, because every time I leave my house, there's a trade, man. Every year I leave my house, they make a trade or they sign somebody.
It's for me, like, sometimes I'm like, man, this time zone kills me, because they always happen when I'm asleep during the day for you guys. But in a way, I think it's good because I don't have to worry. Like, it's just a fact to me that I'm going to be late to the party. So there's some comfort in that I don't have to stress about it occurring while I'm awake.
Yeah, I mean, when we traded Tobias, went to the grocery store, when we traded for Blake, every time I go to the grocery store, it must be a grocery store thing. Every time I go, we make a trade. I was just like, man, like, what the hell? Like, someone said, like, hey, man, you should go to the grocery store. I'm trying to see something right now. I was just like, shut up. No.
It's crazy.
I'm not going.
That Blake trade in particular, I feel like a lot of people in this chat, I definitely remember where I was when I saw Woj, the initial reporting start and then the trade happened. Like, I literally remember where I was and what time of day and everything. It was just that came out of absolutely nowhere from memory.
Yeah, like I didn't know that was going to happen. Like, the fact that they traded Tobias and like all those guys, and then I think our pick would have eventually been Miles Bridges anyways, but it's just like the Blake years they're fun. It's just sad that like his knee was just completely destroyed after that Milwaukee Bucks series, because like before he injured it, like they were like a 6 seed. Like they were balling.
Yeah.